Okay, so my current brain cell count is quite a lot lower than it used to be. But my enlightenment, like the in the Bloodborne stats, you have like insight, kind of, madness, sort of experiencing things beyond the mortal plane kind of thing. I lost a lot of brain cells, but I do feel like I have more brain, like worms that may or may not be extraterrestrial and magical in nature. So I've been working on grinding out the Akuma. I have, how long is this sheet right now? Looks about 800 data entries, data charts of routings, things, measurements, comparisons, etc. Working out data, etc. Measurements, more measurements, routing methodology, more measurements, 0.1s, 0.1s, etc. These are all the 0.1s, just like I did with Cammy. I did a lot more with Akuma. This is like all I've been doing for the past week, is working on this one document. Yeah, anyways, a couple notes. One, my discouraging note that I'm left with is that one of Akuma's best combo optimizations is not as vital, but one of the things is that when you get this combo in the corner, when you get anything into this, people often do that because it's max damage. Some people, right, recently, like actual Akuma mains and stuff, people that stuck with the character, do this, which is a much better setup because he gets a very powerful meaty overhead that is like plus on block in a way that it just kind of substitutes his regular meaty. So like, it's not like a gimmicky meaty overhead, it's like totally legitimate Oki. He gets every option off of it. It's a very strong situation, and he has lots of great frame kills there. He can do this into. I fucked it up there. He can do this into the proper frame kill. Into. Why am I such a disaster? Into meaty stand medium punch, and you can get it meaty up to like 2 frames, I think. What's the actual frame data on that? Oops. Yeah, +7, so you can get an extra. You can get an extra, whatever else. Yeah, that doesn't substitute for it. Very powerful looping situation. Anyways, but beyond that, there is actually a better route off of this EX wall splat thing, this EX adamant flame, and that is damage that is almost as high as just doing the max damage one, which is the thing into the heavy Tatsu, and regens you significantly more drive gauge, builds you significantly more super, and still gives you the meaty overhead set play. And that is the back this into that, which still gives you the meaty overhead, does a lot more damage than the route that people are doing. That being said, that is incredibly difficult to do consistently. The timing that you have to get for his charged fireball to hit at the right height is significantly more precise than, like, Luke's perfect knuckles, for instance. That's too low. Yeah. So, because of that, I am left to assume that either you have to give up a pretty significant optimization in that sense. It is a meaningful amount of damage, and drive gauge regen and super that you gain for doing that route, also into the strong Oki, it is a pretty meaningful optimization that I would never be confident enough in my execution to pull this off in a real match, because I would drop it like at least 50% of the time, which is not reliable enough to do in real matches, and that gives me like some because nothing else in Akuma's kit I feel is really like that. There's nothing that's like, there's no optimizations that are so powerful but also incredibly execution reliant, but that one is rough. That particular aspect of his play, and he's going to get this constantly. This isn't like a particular situation. Any hit that he lands at or near the corner, he's going to be going into this, and this is just something that is always more optimal, but is very difficult. I fucked it up. Jesus Christ. I think that's too low. I fucked it up again. So as you can see, my worthless, stupid brain is like not getting this at all. I messed it up again, and I didn't even do the setup correctly. I'm doing the Shoryu too late. That's too low. Jesus Christ. Etc. So, yeah. So I've been like, all of my time, just so that you know, like all of my time has been put into research over the past like week or so. Research, measurements, doing math, comparing certain things in certain scenarios, etc., and like sort of theory crafting and like routing stuff and etc. So most of my work has not been actually like learning to play the character per se. I've not got a lot of stuff into muscle memory, and I haven't practiced the execution for a lot of this stuff. I've mostly just been measuring things. So, and now I'm mostly done with everything that I wanted to measure, and I'm like at the point where I'm ready to just start practicing it. Practicing what I have mathematically determined to be the optimal, what I've logically and rationally determined to be what I consider the optimal routings and techniques and such. But yeah, it's that particular aspect in the corner, which has like just right now at the end given me like a it's a little frustrating because I don't feel like I could get, even with practice, I don't feel like I could get it consistent enough to be reliable for real matches. And that miss in the optimization frustrates me. In terms of the actual value calculation, the difference we're talking about is like, what is it? Okay, so off of like, say, a crouch medium kick, it's the difference in like this. So it's worth about like 300 damage in terms of drive gauge plus super gain plus the damage plus the extra Oki. It's worth about like 300 extra value, which is quite a bit. Like 300 value is where I place a full bar of drive gauge at for a lot of characters. So it's like I said, it's a pretty significant optimization. And that depresses me somewhat. But anyways, I'm talking in circles. A couple things. I don't even know what I want to talk about. I mean, like, the charts speak for themselves. I'll make this available. I'll put this in the video description or whatever. I'm just so brain blasted from all this work that I've been doing. I don't really have a point that I want to make. I guess I'm just going to get straight into practicing this shit. My assessment of Akuma as a character is, I always, when he came out, I did not play him that much right when he came out. I like Akuma in Street Fighter 4. I don't really vibe with him in 5, and he plays the idea behind him is quite similar in 5 to this, but he plays a little differently in just how the game works and stuff, but one thing is that, as soon as he launched, I felt that he was overrated. People are like, he's the best character in the game. I'm like, that's fucking bullshit. There's no fucking shot he's the best character in the game. People are like, he's the best Shoto in the game. I could buy that more, but Ken is still, very clearly better in many ways. Here's a lot of things that people don't consider, alright? So one, when you see Akuma, an ideal Akuma round is it starts, and then you quickly win a footsie scenario, and then you get crouch medium kick, this, and then you get into heavy tatsu, and then you're doing your corner game stuff, and then they get melted in the corner and die, right? Now, the flip side of that is you do shit on whatever. You do drive rush cancels, they get blocked, or drive reversaled or whatever, and you're lower on drive gauge, and you get to about here, and you still haven't necessarily challenged the opponent to the corner, etc. And in order to get them all the way to the rest of the corner, your only great corner carry options almost entirely require a drive rush cancel, which will burn you out at that point. I don't think Akuma plays particularly well in Burnout. He's not terrible because he has a really good fireball and a really good uppercut, but I think his low health and his need to win the neutral, put himself in a favorable position is quite important. His corner carry compared to a lot of other characters. So let's say Ken's corner carry, which is by far the farthest. So let's just say Ken gets So we're here. So this is 5 and where do his feet start at? Okay, the middle of his big Mickey Mouse shoes. So he gets to about 5.6 grid spaces. Cammy off of a low forward drive rush. Gets to about 5.5 or 4.5. Kimberly, who has very good corner carry. Gets to about, I think, the middle of her feet? No, it's actually behind. So, she gets to about, here, 5.3. And then, Luke, right? Luke does not go quite as far as, those characters, but if he does Drive Rush Oki, he can get further and he can do plus on block, so he can be about, 4.25 or around there. Whereas Akuma, he does have his one thing that has a lot of corner carry is heavy tatsu, but he needs to spend drive gauge to get Oki from that. Now, there's two ways he can get Oki. One, off of heavy tatsu, is that he can get the tatsu, and then he can drive rush from here, at which point he doesn't get a legitimate meaty throw. He can almost get it, but he has to specifically have a 3-frame gap if he's going to get all the way for throw, assuming they don't walk backwards. So, he doesn't actually get a true meaty throw here. Oh, and he doesn't do anything that will slide him into position to be in throw range either, on block, as a meaty. Because nothing else really moves him forwards if they block after first hit. You can be quite close. Maybe, yeah, you can, I think if you just barely precisely time a jab after 2 frames, but not 3, so a 2-frame gap, but not a 3-frame gap, then you can get it. But, or you can do dash into drive rush jab or drive rush medium punch, both of which will give you a throw. So you can do drive rush medium punch, then walk forwards and throw off of the +5, and then that works. You don't fuck it up. There. With a 2-frame gap. That being said, he can walk backwards out of that one. Or do a drive rush into slightly delayed jab, which also requires manual timing. And then that one will give you a throw. But if you accidentally get the hit, you won't. It'll be quite difficult to react to the fact that the jab hit them. So if you get like a counter hit, your throw will just whiff. So that's not an ideal throw scenario either. So his ability to get Oki, like throw Oki, like basic strike throw Oki off of this scenario is kind of questionable and awkward. But with that being said, he still has, like, he can get pretty close to a throw range, and he still has overheads and lows that stop the opponent from wanting to walk backwards, that are all very strong as well. But anyways, the point is, block after first hit. So here's like furthest corner carry off of a low forward would be like that. And then if he drive rushes, it's about the same as like Luke's now, not considering, like if Luke does not add another drive gauge bar, or bar of drive gauge, for instance, like Luke can do a 4-bar route that deals like a lot of corner carry. So 4-bar route that deals like 5.5 if you do it properly. But anyway, so if you come back to Akuma or anything, you can do some routes into this back heavy kick, and then you can get this, which has more corner carry. But you can't do that off of crouching medium kick unless it's a counter hit. But let's say you get like that into crouch strong, into whatever, into the medium Tatsu. Then you get Oki and strike. It's still 4 bars, which for Akuma is kind of a lot, and I'll explain why that is. And it's still only 4 point whatever. So his corner carry is like decent. It's not bad, but it's not high either. And considering that all of his incredibly strong stuff and all of his kit mainly works in the corner, right? So this, it's made for the corner. This, easy confirm, that just gives you extensions in the corner. This, all of its shit works in the corner. And whatever. Anyway, so yeah, that's one of the awkward things. The other thing that most people don't think about when they look at Akuma, because all they do is they see like his good rounds, and those are like he gets a hit, he gets early from this mid-screen, and he gets a drive rush cancel into like heavy Tatsu, puts him in the corner, and then he decimates. Or he loses the neutral, gets cornered, but manages to side switch, usually from a jump out, and then he just wins. However, when stuck in the mid-range, he's kind of a normalish character that just has incredibly low health. So here's the thing. His Fireball and Uppercut game, Fireball, I don't know if I would say it's the best Fireball in the game. It's definitely arguably the best, but I would say that some other Fireball, like, the most that this can do is just hit the opponent, right? All it does is just attack. Whereas, let's say you make a Fireball on contact, it builds a little bit of drive gauge for Akuma. Okay, versus, like, let's take just some other random character. I think most of the Shotos have a similar amount of drive gauge restored for Fireballs, but then, like, let's say, like, Ed, for instance. Versus, So anyway, I would say that like other characters have better fireballs for fireball drive rush to get in. Chun has a better one for fireball drive rush. So does Juri. So does Ken. And that's partially because of the way they're and then Guile has a better fireball for just pure recovery and stuff. Akuma's fireball has like no hurt box, so it can't be clipped by a lot of things that some of the other Shoto's fireballs can. But unlike in Street Fighter V, where it had bonus properties where it would knock the opponent down if it hit up close, it's still only a fireball, and it does more damage than other Shoto's fireballs that I think broadly do, 600? Yeah. Whereas his does 700. That being said, it's still like you don't win the game off of little scrapes. The Street Fighter 6 is not a game where you win off of 700 damage pokes. His main threat of his fireball uppercut game is if he can waste time and regen his drive gauge, that's very valuable, and if he can make the opponent jump, his uppercut easily the best in the game, no question. His uppercut, if we look at like the damage of like even let's just say Ken, right, who I think is better than Akuma. So let's say Light Punch DP, which people use a lot, would be like 1320, or if it hits high like that, 96. That does 1440, and this does 1564. It actually does more than I thought. I think because I'm basing it off of Kami's, which does less than that. In my head, uppercuts do like this much damage, which is like 1200 on counter hit. So it's more like about a little bit over 1000. And then Akuma's does like his light punch one, 1320, medium punch one, 1440, heavy punch one, 1620. So his Shoryuken does like the most damage of an invincible uppercut in the game. It has absurd range for its speed, the heavy punch one. It also, even though it looks like he's going forwards in a sweeping motion that's like very far, this actually hits very close above his head. So there's not a huge risk of you accidentally going underneath them in the same way that other characters' heavy uppercuts. Sometimes you have to pick the lighter, shallower ones. This one just hits straight above his head. And then, also, it gives you, like, pretty solid Oki, and this is, like, the special amongst his specials that, like, regens him the most drive gauge. His Fireball is, like, okay. Adamant Flame, if he lands, like, Adamant Flames in hits, I want you to look, most people don't realize this, look at how little drive gauge Adamant Flame recovers. Literally just pixels. Nothing. On hit or on block, doesn't matter. And that's true for all versions. So, also, thing that doesn't build as much drive gauge is like other characters. All of the demon flip options build a little smidge of a pixel of drive gauge. Other characters that do specials build significantly more. Spin Knuckle builds like 2 or 3 times that amount. So anyways, so yeah, his dive kick builds very little, his chop builds very little on hit or on block, etc. How much does his slide build? Also the same amount. I believe Kami's hooligan options all build like twice as much, which is still like doesn't look like a lot, but it's still like, yeah, like 2, maybe even 3 times as much. Yeah, way more drive gauge build. And this adds up. So, especially if we go back to Kami, and let's say Kami's playing neutral, she's mostly getting, like, let's say, standing heavy kicks. Okay, well, standing heavy kick builds her, like, a big-ass chunk of drive gauge. Standing medium kick also builds her a lot of drive gauge. Now, standing medium kick builds, because it's built just as a poke, it's designed in such a way that it does more drive gauge, does more for her drive gauge and against the opponent than other mediums. So, like, crouching medium punch is not that dissimilar from standing medium punch or crouching medium kick in terms of the drive gauge that they build and the drive gauge that they take on punish counter. Crouching medium kick builds a little bit less than the medium punches. Whereas standing medium kick actually builds more and takes more. Instead of 0.4, it takes 0.6 on punish counter. And this is reflected in also the drive gauges that it builds as a poke. So her standing heavy kick and her standing medium kick both build significantly more than like most normals, most medium normals or heavy normals that build like around that amount or whatever. Whereas Akuma, his standing heavy punch doesn't even build close to Cammy's standing heavy kick. And most of his medium buttons, they just build the normal medium amount. And his forward medium kick, which is his effective poke, builds a little bit more than his medium punches, but not by much. And Akuma does not, like, he has forward heavy punch to throw around, but that also does not build anywhere near as much drive gauge as Cammy's stand heavy kick. So, there are many ways in which his drive gauge gain as a battery is actually quite low, just due to a lot of his button interactions and stuff, and, just etc. The highest, like, drive gauge that he is able to regen is he gets a huge chunk off the sweep that he does off of the light Tatsu. He gets a big-ass chunk right there, and then actually starts getting into a healthy state. But anyway, so I think that, like, once Akuma's kind of low on the drive gauge, he doesn't have great ways of just, like, regenning drive gauge through his actions necessarily. He just has to kind of waste time, and that inherently puts him in a reactive mode of play. And he has other things that he can do. I'm not saying he's bad or anything, but, like, okay, here's a couple ways in which people do not think about, but that Akuma is not as good as, like people like delusionally saying that he's the best in the game. So one way is, in this game, similar to Street Fighter V, his buttons are quite stubby, except for a couple ones that are, like, choicely selected, but most of his buttons are pretty stubby or average. Stubby or average. His forward medium kick has a lot more range. His fireball's very fast, so it acts as a quick poke, and his standing light kick is insanely good. It's amazing. It's, like, his best button relative to other characters' 5-framers and how they work. But anyways. But, like, in this game, just like in Street Fighter V, the idea behind his footsies is that, yeah, he has stubby, whatever, but his buttons are very good at counter-punching, and he has great walk speed so that he can use his walk speed to make up for his stubby buttons. In this game, that's not always an option, okay? There's a lot of situations where you'll just be put into a scenario where, like, you need a button of a certain frame data, okay, to contest a scenario. So let's just say Cammy does, like, let's say, stand heavy kick, light kick, right? Okay, so stand heavy kick -3 into light kick, which means that, with 5-framer or whatever, or, what's a better scenario for this? Let's say, so, like, okay, here's, like, a scenario. This is not, I just thought of one off the top of my head, but, like, this is a scenario where it's, like, let's say you're minus, but you're in a range where you don't have the luxury of using your walk speed. You are minus at a certain frame, and you have to hit an immediate button to take advantage of the minus frames in a way that will reach the opponent so that it doesn't whiff. Because, like, if Ed doesn't do a button afterwards, if I hit a 4-framer or something, it'll whiff, and then I'm at risk of getting punished for that. So I could beat this by just doing a fucking jab. But I need to do something that will reach that speed at that space that will contest the buttons he's likely to use. So in this situation, a 5-framer is what you need. A 5-framer or a 6-framer. So if you don't have something that reaches that distance in that time that's effective, you know, whatever. So in terms of Akuma, his 4-framer its range is, like, average. It's pretty normal. It's not below average, it's just average. His 5-framer range, excellent. One of the best in the game. 6-framer range, pretty good. Maybe a little above average, but not very high. There are characters with much further 6-framer range, like Ed. 7-framer range, now, again, most characters, not every character has the full assortment of 4, 5, 6, 7, and 8 framers, and 9. Like, for instance, Ed has a very shitty 4-framer, very bad 4-framer range, very good 5-framer range, very good 6-framer range, mediocre 7-framer range, average 8-framer range, and then outside of that, he has, like, pretty good 10-framer and, like, very good ranges beyond that point. Akuma has average jab 4-framer range, very, very good 5-framer range, little above average 6-framer range, mediocre 7-framer range, because his 7-framer barely goes a few pixels further than his 6-framer, and neither one goes as far as his 5-framer. As you can see. And then 8-framer range, his 8-framer is crouching medium kick. It is also maybe a little above average, but it's pretty much in the middle of the pack for 8-frame low medium kicks. And then his standing heavy punch is 9 frames. It reaches pretty much the exact distance that crouching medium kick does, maybe slightly shallower. And then he has this, it is a 10-framer range, but the reward that he can get off of this is limited to how close they are. Like, he can get stuff off of punish counter off of this, but he has to be close enough, and he has to be quite a lot closer than you'd expect. So it has to be much closer than the range at which you would actually need to use a 10-framer for him to get like, punish counter value of that. He has to be already, like, in 8-framer range anyways, so as a 10-framer, it's not, like, you know, as god tier as some other 10-framers, right? And then beyond that, his 9-framer, his furthest 9-framer is a sweep, and then outside of that, he has, like, nothing until 13 frames. He doesn't have 10-framer range, 11 or 12-framer range. He has 9-framer range only with sweep. Sweep is the only thing that, like, reaches further than crouching medium kick until he gets up to 13 frames with stand heavy kick and forward heavy punch. And this leaves him in some scenarios where he doesn't have good options. Some options, some scenarios he only has average options. Some scenarios he has actually kind of not great options. For instance, even sweeps that most characters can punish quite easily, even characters that are bad at punishing sweeps, like Lily, for instance, can still punish minus 12 ones just fine, but Akuma, it needs to be minus 13 for him to do anything, so he has to either be in 8-framer range, and if he's not in 8-framer range, he only gets sweep. He only gets sweep. Or like raw level 1 or raw level 2, which both give him no Oki in mid-screen. And neither one really gives him any corner carry either. So, he does have, like, a button deficit here. He's pretty bad. He's, like, not as good as you would expect at punishing sweeps. Every other, like, top-tier character can punish these sweeps very effectively. Ken gets roundhouse into whatever. Luke gets stand heavy punch into whatever. He gets tons, like, meatless conversions. There are sweeps that are exactly minus 9 that Luke does not punish as well as Ken does. But, because Ken, he also has, in addition to roundhouse, he has standing medium kick as an 8-frame button, which is humongous range. This is, like, one of the furthest 8-framers in the entire game, period. And he also has EX Tatsu, which is a very good 9-frame punish that you rarely see, but it is the optimal punish on some sweeps. Most Ken players don't even know about this, but it is the optimal punish in a lot of sweeps in some circumstances. Anyways, back to Akuma. So anyways, yes, so in terms of his buttons, his only button in terms of range for scenarios where you need a button of a certain range and a certain speed to take the onus of something when the opponent is minus but too far away for you to do something too shallow, his only particularly excellent button is stand light kick. And other than that, a lot of his stuff, he does have the full onus. You might consider that he doesn't have a 7-framer, because his 7-framer is, like, barely distinguished in terms of range and functionality from his crouch strong. So you could consider him to just be a 6-framer and then an 8-framer. The other problem that this arises is in terms of his whiff punish ability. Let's say he tries to whiff punish those sweeps. If he needs range, if he needs the range to reach the hurt box of something, then he has two options. He can either go for sweep, like if crouching medium kick just flat out will not reach, he needs something with more range. He has two options that are kind of rough. He has sweep, which will, his sweep is very punishable. His is one of the -12 ones on block at all ranges. So it's not one of the -9 or -10 ones. His gets fucked up by any character that has decent sweep punishes. So if you make a mistake, you can get fucked for this. But the other thing about this is that the value of this is not any higher than any other character who lands a sweep with punish. You don't get any corner carry from it, which Akuma needs to get his game plan going. He doesn't have especially good, like, setups off of this. Like, he doesn't have, like, any, like meaty overhead without drive rush or anything off of this. He doesn't have, like particularly special set play off of this whiff punish. Let's see, does he have... He actually might have a meaty overhead setup. Let's see that. But the problem with this is, of course, you wouldn't be able to threaten with, like, many other options. Like, you could walk forwards and do that, but, like, you're not already, like, point blank in throw range. Okay, whatever. Like, it's an option. Anyways, the point is that he doesn't get any corner carry off of this. And, like, fuck him. Anyways, other characters can whiff punish this with things that, like, actually give them reward, like full combos, and not just one sweep knockdown. His other option to whiff punish things at long range is way more rewarding, kind of difficult because it's a pretty slow button, and very risky if you're too late. And that's stand roundhouse whiff punish. So if you make a minor mistake in spacing or timing, you will get fucking decimated for this, because all they have to do is crouch, and then they can punish with, like, full damage combos from whatever. So if you're, like, fighting, like, let's say Lily, I know off the top of my head, because I train with the Lily. So anyways, crouching heavy punch on block, right? You can either whip punish with sweep, so you don't really get crouching medium kick unless you're, like, quite tight in the spacing. But it's an option, and you can go into heavy adamant flame off of it. But, like, from, like, just randomly throwing it out like that, you need to do sweep or roundhouse. And roundhouse, if you're kind of tight with it, is very good. Very rewarding, but, again, 13 frame startup, not as long range as sweep, and, you die if you're too far away or too slow. So anyways, and beyond that, he doesn't have other convenient whiff punish tools outside of 8-frame range, and as we already talked about, his 8-framer is only average. It's only, like, maybe slightly above middle of the pack. So, in that sense, I do feel like he's, like, a little bit. Now, his light kick whiff punish game is fantastic. That being said, outside of the corner, if you whiff punish something... So his light kick whiff punish is ridiculous. It's, like, incredibly fucking good. And if you confirm the whiff punish, you can go into medium adamant flame, and it's a great time. This is, like, this button is ridiculous. However, medium adamant flame, which is what you have to go into, because if you're like far out like this, light adamant flame whiffs like that. Not plus enough for heavy. You could do EX and then teleport in, but I think that's a waste of resources. You could do this, which I also feel is quite expensive for not that much damage, and as we already talked about, Akuma is not a battery character unless he's landing those corner combos, those long corner combos with the juggles that don't cost that much. And his medium adamant flame doesn't give him Oki in mid-screen. So, those are areas where I feel that Akuma is weak, in addition to the obvious, which is his low HP. Other than that, his super utility, not very good. His level 1, pretty much only useful as a reversal and just raw damage. Doesn't do a lot of things for you. Doesn't give you any functional value in combos, like corner carry or etc. It's just a super that hits the opponent for damage. His level 2 is amazing if you're close enough to the corner for it to convert. Other than that, it's just like, I don't know, pretty decent. You can react to a lot of stuff in mid-range with it. If you're close enough, you can react through fireballs with it. So that's cool. His level 3 fucking sucks ass. Okay, well, in some ways. The best thing about it is that its cancel is incredibly quick, which means that, unlike a lot of other characters, he can just easily do DP level 3, and it pretty much always hits. You can hit them very high up. And you can get it. That being said, it's also just a super that does damage, doesn't give him corner carry, doesn't give him like a good Oki setup, etc. It gives him an okay Oki setup. He can do like a drive rush meaty or something, but it's also not, it's also like not quite plus enough that he can drive rush and then bait an EX reversal or whatever, so, which is also a folly of his heavy kick Tatsu thing, is that if he does do heavy kick Tatsu into dash into medium punch for like the to get close enough, this is also a scenario where if he dashes forwards like this, it's only plus 15, which means that if he does drive rush forward, the opponent can just react to that and blow it up with an EXDP. I don't believe that he can bait it out in this circumstance without doing an incredibly hard read. For instance, let's have Cammy do a wake up EX cannon spike. What? Oh, I did it on block. Anyways, as you can see, there's certainly no way that he can make it whiff. He would have to hard commit to a DI, and even then, it depends on the characters, because you can see Akuma doesn't even get to punish this one on DI. Other than that, he has no options to stop this. So, this is another one of those situations where it's good Oki, but it is slightly gimmicky in that it gives the opponent a almost guaranteed punish on it if they're willing to spend the drive gauge. And they are looking for the drive rush there, which means you can't abuse it frequently against characters with reversals, especially fast reversals. Other than that, his charge fireball in neutral is weird because it doesn't move as slowly as like if you do the light one, so it's kind of harder for him to use it as like drive rush to get in. It's just a strange thing. Like, other than fireball wars and challenging other people's fireballs, I'm not super sure when I would use this logically. Sometimes I just do it just because, but it's kind of strange. And it also doesn't help him build like his drive gauge any better. As you can see, it still builds like a tiny little speckles. So it doesn't even help with that either. So I'm not super sure how exactly I would apply this in neutral. Anyways, the other like weak points, kind of weak points of the character is some of his combo routing is a bit suspect. Like, for instance, if the opponent's crouching and he lands like a light, his only option is to really to either drive rush cancel, which off of lights sucks and is not worth it for him, or do this, for which he has to spend drive rush Oki, and he very frequently is not close enough to get a meaty throw. So a lot of the Oki that he's forced to do does not put him in throw range. Other than that, yeah, so he kind of often has to choose in his combos between doing something with decent meterless Oki that he doesn't have to keep spending his drive gauge on, and his drive gauge is always kind of a little bit low unless your Shoto gameplay is very good at the keep out and the opponent is never touching you because they can't get a hand on you from your fireball, poke, and uppercut game. But yeah, so you either have to choose between like something like that or doing something with like high corner carry, but then you have to drive rush off of it, or yeah, I don't know, it's just a little bit awkward. Other than that, there are some idiosyncrasies, like for example, people are like day one, people are like, oh my god, he gets free safe jumps off everything, that's amazing. Then people quickly realize that like off of most of these interactions, people, after not that many days, realize that if you back tech, you're only plus 11, you're not plus enough to walk up all the way for a throw. So, and at a lot of ranges, it just won't connect at all. So it's useful to have. It's very useful in the corner, but obviously people were like screaming about how easy the safe jump is or whatever, and then they just take regular dash Oki like he's just any other fucking character. And that's what they do now because, yeah, obviously. So, you know, nothing that special about it. Then people started doing a lot of this, which like the heavy adamant flame. And then people have actually done this less frequently now. Like, a lot of the Akuma players kind of like realize that there's like a flaw in that as well, which is that a lot of them started doing this, which is like the demon flip, and then they're +2, and then they go for a throw, or they go for a meaty. The problem with this scenario is, one, you're only +2, and you're not that close to get like a really threatening meaty or like some good plus frames or something. So if you do standing medium punch, that'll just lose to a 4-framer in this situation. Well, it'll trade with a 4-framer, I mean. And the thing about Akuma is that because all of his buttons are designed to be very fast, they all have very little total recovery. Like his stand medium punch is 20 frames, which is outrageously short for like a medium punch or something. The downside of having very short recovery is that your buttons are fucking really bad on trades. So like you can trade from standing medium punch with a light and still get not even that many plus frames. So all of it, most of his buttons are like not pretty bad on trades. His crouching medium punch is significantly better, but he'd have to commit to that, and then that's -1 on block if he doesn't, and then he has to commit to like betting that the opponent won't do something, whatever. Anyways, the point is, he also has a lot of other fancier options that are really powerful, but all of his like really weird shit that throws a wrench into the neutral costs a lot of drive gauge. For instance, he can do EX Demon Flip, like he can do Fireball from long range and then EX Demon Flip, and the way that all these EX movement options work is that they always scale your movement to your distance from the opponent, so no matter how far away you are, you like flash over to the opponent. So if I was like point blank, I'd like barely move at all. But if I'm like full screen, I like teleport over there in an instant. Fucking... And off of EX Demon Flip, you get the EX Air moves, which you have to do quite early, otherwise there's no way to stop Akuma from getting to this point right here if you let the EX Demon Flip go. No matter how far away you are, you can't stop him from hovering at this point directly above and right in front of this space relative to the opponent, which once you're at that point, this does not work, and the opponent can just flat out anti-air you with a normal or an uppercut anyways. So you have to do it quite early, like this, if you're going to go into the EX Fireball for this. So you don't the Demon Flip movement doesn't automatically put you too close. But even then, it's like that or just his regular like EX Air Fireball, both have like this extra cost associated in that if they hit, you have to then spend drive gauge to convert, which means you're spending 3 bar, you're spending 2 bar on the EX, you're spending another bar of drive gauge on the drive rush, and because you're doing a raw drive rush and not a drive rush cancel, you are put into the heaviest drive gauge penalty possible, and you will not build drive gauge for the rest, the next like 4.5 seconds. Which is a much more heavy delay than if you did, like, if you just regularly do this, into this, your drive rush penalty ends before the combo is done. So as soon as the combo's over, you're building drive gauge again. Not the case if you do, like, this EX air fireball route. Fucking garbage. I'm so bad at everything. So if you do that, you're still in drive gauge delay, and you're not building drive gauge for, like, a second, 2 seconds afterwards. So that costs more than a drive rush cancel to just do, like, one, like, EX fireball. Now, it does a lot of cool shit. There's a lot of cool shit you can do off of it, but, anyway, so, what's next? Right, so he has, like, all these metered options. EX Hadoken, incredibly powerful, but if he's not, like, a battery character that, like, just constantly builds drive gauge off of all the neutral interactions, so, like, unless you're way, way above the opponent in the drive gauge war, and you're, like, beating them easily with meterless options and stuff, it's kind of difficult to justify using it a lot of the times if you don't know it's gonna hit. Right. I was in the middle of explaining why this setup is not good. Part of it is because the standing medium punch trade off of lights is not good against a lot of lights. It works against some lights. Let me try Cammy's. Cammy's lights have some of the least hit stun in the game, similar to Akuma's. So, yeah, +4 off of a trade of a medium to a light, +4, nowhere near range, not even in 5-framer range. So as you can see, and that's one of the lights with the least hit stun in the game. Here, let me try Dulcim's. No one would do this realistically, but Dulcim does actually have the 4-framer with the highest hit stun in the game for trade situations. So let's do Crouching Light Kick. There. +1 off of a medium punch trading with a light. So he only gets lights there, and lights will not guarantee that the opponent will be standing. So unlike with stand medium punch, where if you go into the target combo, you can always at least guarantee that you'll be able to do heavy Tatsu, even if the opponent is not standing. But if you only get lights off of the Oki off of this, and if the opponent challenges and they're not standing, you could counter hit confirm them with crouch jab into crouch strong, and then you could get some stuff off that. But you need to spend drive rush. You need to spend all 3 bars because there's no convenient EX route here unless the opponent's standing, and you can get that. But yeah, there's no convenient EX route. It's only like drive rush or bust if you're to get that counter hit on a croucher. And then you either have to do that again, or you can loop the Adamant Flame situation. But the problem with using Adamant Flame like this is that it only works in certain places on the stage, because if you're like making headway in the match and you land it like this, if you do heavy Adamant Flame and they neutral tech, you can try to react to that and like, oh shit, they're neutral. Like like I do the heavy flip, and then I'm like, oh shit, they neutral teched. Fuck, it's too late. I'm already on the other side. Akuma's demon flip options will not turn around the other direction, like Cammy's dive kick will, with Hooligan, where it'll dive kick in the opposite direction if you go over the opponent's head. So like if the opponent neutral techs, like there's very little that you can do to stop yourself from side switching, and thus if you're making headway, putting yourself closer to the corner. So that's a pretty flawed Oki scenario as well, in addition to the fact that you don't even get, like, the good, like, the threat of the demon flip chop or anything like that while you're doing it if they neutral tech there. So, now you do get regular, like, dash Oki here off of this, which if they back tech is quite good, because you can very easily get into just forward throw range. I'm not hitting forward dash enough. Anyways, but the one problem that I have with Akuma in this game is that the way his kit works, the way his buttons work, is that he's great in a situation like this where he dash and he's +4 point blank. He's amazing here, all right, because he doesn't have to do fucking anything. But if he's +9 and he still has to walk a tiny bit further to get to the opponent like this, his problem with walking forwards is that it's very difficult for him to walk forwards and use his good buttons. Like, you can't walk forwards and use your plus on block button with your stand medium punch, because if you're holding forwards while pressing it, a lot of his buttons that you might want to use have different, much slower buttons on them if you're holding the forward. So medium punch, if you're doing forward, is that. Medium kick, if you're doing forward, is that. Heavy punch, if you're holding forward, is that. So if you're in this situation where you have to walk forwards for pressure or something, you have to precisely walk forwards and then let go and if you let go too early, you don't get enough walk forward, so you're not close enough for the things you want to do. And if you are holding forwards too long before you hit the button, you get a much slower option that you didn't want. So his walking forwards is a bit awkward. His walk forwards jab is very good. It's very good. I think underrated. I think as Akuma gets refined, more and more people will use his jab in the same way that they use Kami's stand jab. It's not that his jab is as good as Kami's, but his walk speed is better than Kami's, and it will consistently link at max range into light kick, which is, well, not max range, but it links from very far away, which Kami's does not always do, at, like, very, very far range. And if he's even slightly closer than that and he gets a counter hit confirm, he can get crouch strong, which gives him a lot of his good options. So I think that, and other than that, there's no functional difference between Akuma's stand jab and Kami's. They have this exact same frame data. 4 frames startup, 3 frames active, 13 frames total. Exactly the same as Kami's. So anyways, those are some aspects to consider. Other than that, tools that I think are underrated with Akuma, instant air fireball when you're very far away from the opponent, like shallow range. Some characters can punish this in the same way that some characters can react and punish, like, Juri's fireball, just because of the hitbox being so low to the ground. But if you do this, if you do, like, fireball too close, you risk just getting anti-aired anyways. Fireball down here where it's shallow, they still can't jump over this. In total, it has, like, not that different frame data from just throwing a regular fireball. This is, like, 46 frames total, whereas this is, like, 12 plus 12. Let me just punch it in my calculator. 12 plus 12 plus 32 plus 3, 59. Minus, like, the 3 whatever that you can spend, like, blocking at the end. As you can see, so I said, like, 59, but it's actually, like, whatever. And by the time that they can see it, so because part of that initial movement is jump startup, which is like 4 frames of jump startup. So if you do that, so it's 12 plus 12 plus 32, and then you take out like 4 frames of jump startup. It's about 52, which is like about the same as some other characters' fireballs, which does not make it like reactable. Like, does not really make it reactable with a jump. If you react very quickly, you can DI through it. But he also has the option to do the EX one, which will blow up a DI. It's costly, but it will work in that sense. And if you don't have the drive gauge to just like spend on the drive rush cancel, you can always, off of any of his fireballs and stuff, get like full screen Oki with meaty demon flip if you time it correctly. Yeah, I've not used his EX Air Fireball a lot because I don't like how expensive it is. But anyways, where was I? What the fuck was I talking about? Right. Other than that, his stand heavy kick is a very powerful YOLO option. It really kills like a lot of like sort of antsy button presses. Akuma is very good in this game at counterpunching, minus the fact that he doesn't have like a great counterpunch tool, longer range than crouching medium kick. So sometimes he's forced to do like crouching medium kick buffered into medium adamant flame, which is not ideal, or dry rush cancel, which is like scaled damage off of the stand medium kick and also inherent is costly as a dry rush cancel. But yeah, his counter hit like crouch strong in adamant flame and his stand fierce in adamant flame are both very, very good. If you're much farther away from the opponent, it's easier to do Demon Flip Oki or something similar to Demon Flip Oki. Like, for instance, you can do medium Demon Flip in a lot of these circumstances. This is another thing that I think is underutilized. Akuma, here's the thing. If you just do light Demon Flip into nothing, 45 frames in total. It is the exact same frame data as just doing a neutral jump. Okay? So if you just do this, it's like you did a neutral jump, only you move slightly forwards, and also at any point while you're in the air, you have the option to travel a huge horizontal distance with a dive kick that's plus if you hit them in the shins. So this is a great option to just throw out here. It does not have an extended hurt box. It's not like it's easy to anti-air this with like an uppercut or a normal or something. You do this at like slightly outside the range that you would just throw in a neutral jump, and it gives you some very powerful options that you have available to you. Very, very strong tool. And you can do this in certain knockdown scenarios as well. For instance, like off of Heavy Shoryuken, you can do medium, and if they back tech, you're at the ideal space, or you can just do it empty, or whatever. Heavy Tatsu, same scenario. You do medium, and if they back tech, you're at the ideal space. If you empty, it's only minus 11. A lot of characters don't even really punish that at this range. Even if they hard call out that you're going to do it empty. And you can just, you know, transition into that. So that, I think, is a very powerful tool that's not being utilized to its fullest extent right now. Shallow Demon Flip as a stand-in for empty jumps. Or neutral jumps. Neutral, empty jump, whatever. Anyways, what else was I going to talk about? Forward heavy punch single hit confirmable. Very good. Very strong move. Not as strong as some other characters. Heavy options. It's not as good as like Cammy's stand roundhouse, but very good move. Let's see. And then let me check my notes. Right, I checked my notes, and I also remembered that I started on points but then lost my train of thought because I'm an idiot. So I was saying that like level 3 is great for like the fact that you can do uppercut into EXTP as an anti-air, or uppercut into level 3 as an anti-air, and it'll always work. But outside of that functional value, it is fucking not great because it's an 8-framer with less range than his crouching medium kick. So not very functional. Not going to be reacting through fireballs with this or doing much. His Raging Demon is like, it's powerful that he has it, but this is like, you might have heard people say this is the weakest Raging Demon has ever been. That is completely accurate. 7-frame startup, but what you need to understand about that is 7-frame startup, very, very, very close range. Like, if you do like forward heavy punch, punish counter, you're plus 8. Right? You're plus 8. You can get whatever you want. Doesn't combo into Raging Demon. Because even at this close range, where crouch strong and like even stand strong and stuff reach, his Raging Demon hits 7 frames in like this range. It's so fucking shallow. So yeah, in that sense, pretty fucking weak, bro. Other than that, it only does barely slightly more damage than his just CA level 3. So this does like 4,700, whereas CA does like, what? 4,005, so 200 extra damage, which means it's only optimal as a combo. Like, comboing into Raging Demon doesn't ever really give you optimal damage. The only situation where comboing into Raging Demon is optimal damage is if you just get, like, a punish, and you just do, like, say, like, Crouch Fierce or Stand Fierce Raging Demon, where you get 100% damage from both actions, and then that will give you, like, huge fucking damage. And that's higher than a lot of things that you could do if you spent Drive Gauge in the combo. But, right, so Raging Demon, I'll have to experiment more with it. It's just, his health is so low that it's already kind of hard for him to be in yellow health to begin with. He doesn't get a great many opportunities to use it, and it's also weaker than it has been in a lot of other games. But other than that, other points that I wanted to make, level 3... What other points? Right, forward throw. No Oki in mid-screen. No legitimate Oki in mid-screen. You can kind of get a drive rush forward heavy punch meaty. You're nowhere in range for a throw, or you can set up a fireball drive rush, which is also kind of flawed because his drive rush options over great distances are not especially cool. He has some shit with, like, fireball teleport. Like, teleport is a thing I have not experimented with as much. Part of the reason for that is because my L2 button, which would usually be my 3 kicks button, is relegated to the the function input for doing all this convenient training mode shit. And I hate turning that shit off. And the way my buttons have been laid out for years, ever since I started playing Falk, who required me to change my button layout from the default. So my button layout is pretty weird compared to what probably most of you guys play. And as a result, it's very awkward for me to hit all 3 kicks naturally. But anyways, the point is, there's probably some shit with Fireball Teleport that I have not done enough of. Let's say the opponent... I wonder what happens. Let's say, like, you do this... Fireball Teleport, you're -6. And that's assuming they don't just walk up and block it. Hang on. Yeah, that's -6. Okay. So, again, I don't know. Probably from, like, much further away, if you really assume they're not going to... Like, you can do this and then drive rush, and then if you do that enough, they have no reason to jump because you'll be able to very easily uppercut them. And then you can use that instead to close space. But it's not even that much faster or better than just doing dashes. So I don't know. There's, like, some weirdness. There's, like, some goofy stuff you can do. There's one piece of tech that I don't see people doing, or that I don't know if people know about, which is, everyone knows that, like, Akuma's side switches are, he has to get at least crouch strong, and then he does drive rush into, like, back roundhouse into this, and then he gets a convenient side switch. His heavy... flip, the problem with it is that it can't go any further past their head than that. So even if you're point blank and you do a heavy flip, as you can see, the game, like, cuts off his momentum as soon as he's over their head, and he has no option that will side switch. Like, if he does punch, it's in the wrong direction, dive kick, it's in the wrong direction. There's nothing he can do here. As if he blocks as soon as possible. So, as soon as you're, like, over their head, the opponent can just press any button, like, just press light punch and guaranteed punish him. And there's nothing that he can do to stop that. And that's something that I feel will happen more prevalently as people get used to that scenario and reacting and punishing him and realizing that there's nothing that he can do. But other than that, yeah, so his, like, true side switch combos are like that. And then, watch. But a side switch route that people don't necessarily know about is going from either lights or crouch medium kick into whatever, into sweep. And then the goofy shit about this, I'm actually going to have to take off my control. No, shortcut settings. Is that you can combo into sweep and then teleport. What? Ah, fuck me. Oh my fucking god. Ugh. It constantly turns on. I have gone and turned off dummy recording, I think like 20 times. And every time I turn on my game, it turns it back on. I fucking... Okay, now my button is actually doing teleport. Fucking thank you, Jesus Christ. Anyway, so you can do this in a teleport and then meaty command grab on either side of the opponent. As you can see, that hit meaty and it side switched, so it puts him in the corner. And the thing about this is that you can also just keep the teleport going, and then you're like minus 20, but you're quite far away from the opponent. There are some ways that the opponent could like bait this and read this and punish it, that you're not going to go for the command grab or whatever. But the thing about this is, if they this is going to be something that's very difficult for you to see here just by me doing this, but it is incredibly difficult to backdash here, because since I'm passing through the opponent right before the meaty hits, their inputs, their back and forward inputs get swapped in the middle, so it's very difficult to actually input a backdash there, which means that their only reliable way of avoiding this is jump. But here's the thing, let's say that they wake up, forward jump, uppercut, let's say they wake up, neutral jump, heavy kick anti-air. Let's say they input back jump. There's nothing they can do, but they are inherently jumping themselves further into the corner that you just escaped. So this is a setup. It's kind of interesting. Also, if they back jump, they don't get to punish the command grab. Well, it depends on the character, but a lot of them won't be able to punish the meaty command grab. -9 from there, Luke would have to do level 1. He could punish with level 1, but he would not be able to punish with, like, anything else. I don't think he gets sweep at this range. Maybe he does. I don't know. But anyways, the point is... Yeah, -9 if you do it well. Right, anyways, the point is that it's an interesting setup, and I have not played enough Akuma. Like I said, most of my Akuma work has been in the lab. I've not even put all the scenarios into my muscle memory yet. I played a couple matches, all of which have been like fucking... I'm still very bad at the basic Shoto. I have very bad fireball sense, and I'm terrible at uppercuts. But overall, I would say... I don't have the muscle memory locked in yet for all the routings and all the scenarios and stuff, but it is fucking, like, brutalizing, like, just slaughtering, running people through. But anyways, so, this is a setup that I have not started adopting into my play. But I intend to very soon. Anyways, let's see. Those are, like, a lot of his cons that people do not necessarily... So, yeah, I think this in place of a neutral jump at a spacing where you can threaten to either slide, where you're outside of anti-air range, but you can threaten to either slide or dive kick, is very strong. I think this, just to encroach on space, is like slightly more punishable than doing a regular fireball, but allows you to move forwards and occupy space, not just in the movement, but also it covers you while you continue to walk forwards. And often forces the opponent to move backwards in response to it. So, this, very useful tool, I think, for taking up that space in a way that doesn't cost drive gauge. And the more that you do both of these options, the more that you desensitize the opponent to that forward jump motion, which means you can rob the opponent with a lot of forward jumps in a way that other characters don't. And you don't even have to do forward jump with, like, the fireball game necessarily. You can just, like, do a lot of very safe things, like this, or like that, and then just sneak in forward jumps. Like, if they're actually looking for it, they can distinguish, they can react to the difference between instant air fireball and full forward jump. So if I were to put this into this, it would be like forward jump heavy kick versus instant air fireball versus jump it like close to the apex, then fireball like that. And then if I turn that one off, I can easily react to the difference between the instant air fireball and the full jump. If I turn on the last one, the interaction kind of depends, but so it can win, it can lose, whatever. Akuma's DP goes quite far. Some other characters might not be so lucky. But the point is that you can distinguish between the instant air stuff and like this, but that assumes that you're like looking for the distinction between them. And there's a factor in fighting games. This is very relevant for Ed, for instance. Like Justin Wong has talked about this forever, which is like the sort of like lulling your opponent to sleep. And the more you represent an option that looks like something without threatening the other thing that you can do, like the more that you do this or the more that you do that, if they prepare to uppercut but then they don't, and you do like relatively safe stuff that they have to do, they can't just react to this. They have to do a read in order to punish this, or react very, very, very quickly or precisely. So this at like outrange is relatively safe so long as the opponent is not getting a read with a DI or a jump in on it or something. Some characters have better tools at punishing it, but it's relatively like safer than just a forward jump, etc., which can be reactively anti-aired. Or safer than trying to gamble with like a late jump fireball or a late jump EX fireball, all of which are very risky if done badly. Oh, this is another thing that I think people should use more. Force his way into jump at a cross-up range or dive kick. His dive kick at the apex is actually very good. Like specifically in this scenario. The thing about his dive kick is that it's like never punishable. It's like minus 2 at worst. So that dive kick at like the apex of a forward jump that looks like it's going to cross the opponent up will fuck with cross-cut uppercut inputs, will counter-hit the opponent. It's plus if it hits them walking into it, etc. And it's like not punishable in any way. I mean, it's not really that different from Kimberly's. Kimberly just, like, all the Kimberly players just do fucking like the... Like, you can't use it as quickly as Kimberly's, but like, Kimberly's do this all the time. The drop is way faster, but this is also -2, and they always just do this and then just mash buttons anyways, and they never get checked for it, so... So, right, anyways, that is, my current thoughts on the character. Light kick is god tier. His corner game is actually fucking absurd. Like, some of these numbers are just hilarious. Like, they actually just don't make any sense. Oh, wait, that's the wrong setup. I did the wrong setup. These are the things I will practice now that I'm done with my lab work. Fuck me, I'm so bad at everything in my life. I never got used to the frame kills in this game. I'm always still used to in SF5 where lights don't, like, whiff for an hour. Yeah, that was not meaty enough. I did not do it correctly because I didn't do the fucking light uppercut fast enough. Fuck me. Right, but anyway, so, like, his fucking game is hilarious. Like, you just sneak in some of this shit, and then you just do that, and you just, like, build a bunch of drive gauge while you fucking melt the opponent. And it's so fucking hilarious. Yeah, that shit is so stupid. His throw scenario is so fucked up. And then, yeah, and then he gets, like, easy, all of his shit goes into, like, the same whatever frame kill scenarios, where he can get light uppercut into the proper frame kill, into... I did not even press that. What the fuck is happening? I've also had no choice but to switch to my... Because the charging port for my usual controller, which is a PS4 controller, has been not... The charging cable has not been, like, linking properly with it, so it's not been charging very well. So I had to buy a new PS5 controller, and I think these are fucking dog shit. And I hate playing with this, but I have to. Anyways, you can get that versus you can get a meaty stand medium punch, if I didn't fuck that up. Meaty throw, if I don't fuck it up like a fucking jackass. This is fresh research for me, so I really need to practice this. I only recently added this to my arsenal, and I'm not used to it yet. So that frame kill, you get a very meaty stand medium punch, you get a meaty overhead, you get a meaty throw, and a bunch of other shit as well. So that's really brutal. I also think his neutral jump as a shimmy is significantly higher value than his like shimmy into like punish counter, crouch strong, stand strong, especially if he's not quite close enough. For instance, there's two ways that the opponent will delay tech, right? So one is that, and the other, fuck me. And the other is that. So if I have both of those on, let's say, block reversal, I hope this works. I haven't done it in this way before, so I'm going to mess around with this really quick. No, see, the problem is it's recording, like, too late. So let's try that. Okay, yeah, so he's late teching now. So the thing about this is that if they crouch block in late tech, you can sit there and shimmy and then be at that ideal range like here. And then you can do the optimal whatever. But if they do a walk backwards into it, you can be out of range for your optimal stuff, which is why, like, having a 1 button into a shimmy is very good. Especially if it's a long-range button like that. But Akuma has to do, like, 2 buttons into it, which the difference between these is kind of obnoxious for him. See? I didn't walk back far enough because I was waiting for the back walk. So as you can see, in this scenario, the difference between the 2 styles of delay tech that would be relevant if the opponent's just holding straight back because they don't think you're going to go low, etc., will make some of his shimmy game a little bit awkward, whereas if you just do neutral jump, you deal with both of them, and his neutral jump reward is way fucking higher. So he would either have to nerf some of his shimmy damage by just going straight into that, or that, or do this instead, which is 3k damage. Let me demonstrate how much fucking drive gauge this builds and how much super gauge it builds. So I'm going to start at like 3, so put myself at like 0. Okay, that's what would happen off of that scenario. I'm going to go back and switch my thing so I can show you properly what's going on here. Function L2, thank you. So there. So we get this knockdown, whatever, in mid-screen. We did 2, 3, 4, 0 damage. We regenerated, like, whatever, up to, like, about 0.8, 0.9 of a drive bar or whatever, drive gauge. And then our super, we gained about, like, 1.7 centimeter super. Whereas if we get the neutral jump, we get that, which gives us stronger Oki. We did 3,020 damage. We built, like, look at this drive gauge difference. Okay, 0.9 to 2.2. 0.9 to 2.2. Look at how much super we built. We built like 1.7 centimeters this time. Last time, this time we built 3.9. More than double. His neutral jump shimmy game is incredibly rewarding in a way that is not necessarily the case for, like, obviously most characters do more damage from a neutral jump. He really does more damage from a neutral jump for his shimmies. Anyways, so that's an important point. I acquiesce my time. I don't think I have that many things that I can recall off the top of my head right now to talk about. Oh, this is one thing. I don't think I mentioned this. Right. This is one of the things that I wanted to talk about because this is another thing that gets underlooked. I thought that I already talked about this because I thought about it in my head, but then I realized that I never actually said it because I started talking about other things first. This is an important point that people do not talk about or think about. Oki off of EX Shoryuken. Oki off of EX DP. Being able to get Drive Rush, Stand Fierce across the fucking stage like half screen carry, and then he gets a meaty that solidly combos, and if the opponent blocks, he's +2. They still have to respect his shit, okay? He still gets options. If he does it meaty, which I'm not used to this scenario because I don't play Ken, but he can do that shit as well. He has so many, like, pressure options and stuff he can do, right? He gets huge corner carry and whatever. That's not the case for a lot of characters. Like it's like Luke and Jury are okay with it, whatever. Rashid is not always the same because, like, he can do EX Reversal, he can do EX Spinning Mixer, and then he can set up a level 2 if he has it. So it doesn't always matter that he doesn't get corner carry. Sometimes that's a better scenario for him, that the opponent's further away. Akuma, his EXDP has very weird properties. So one, I actually don't know off the top of my head how much damage a normal one does. So Ken's does 1600, Akuma's does 1900. There's a big difference right there. Right? That's a fucking chunk ass of damage. But the other thing is that there's a couple things that are very unique and interesting about Akuma's Shoryuken. But one of them is that he doesn't get very good Oki off of this. He's only plus 14, which is like, whereas Ken is like plus 5 million. He only gets meaty, drive rush, crouch strong, and it's not in a great situation. He could do like something off of it, but it's like not that threatening. And also it's one of those things where if the opponent reacts to the drive rush Oki, they can also just wake up and uppercut you as well. So if he does wake up, EX go Shoryu. Can I bait it out with a neutral throw? No? How about, can I bait it out with a fireball? I tried to do, the answer is going to be no anyways. Can I bait it out with a DI? No. So this is another situation where you don't really get true drive rush Oki if the opponent's looking for it, because there's no way to stop the DP from hitting you. Or no convenient, realistic way. Technically, you could do like a... I'm sure he can do like a... No, that gets punished because they both pass through each other. Let me see if his level 2 works. No. He is not punishable, but he doesn't recover fast enough to punish it. How about his EXDP? Yeah, so he could just raw EXDP in their face if he thinks they're gonna DP him. But anyways, two other important points not everyone realizes. So some people know that the invincibility on his heavy and his EX uppercuts ends pretty early. The invincibility, like the air invincibility, you don't see it in the frame counter here, but the air invincibility, so there are plenty of instances where this will actually trade with jump-ins. Not very frequently. Again, as I said, this is by far the best uppercut in the game, but at far range and like very early uppercuts, this can trade with jump-ins. And EX will like trade with things in ways that most uppercuts won't. But one thing that's unique about his EX Shoryuken, very unique, his is the only one in the game like this, 3 hits on the ground. 3 hits on a regular standing opponent. So every other character in the game, every other fucking character, you could at least, you could at least DI, because DI armor's 2 hits. Most DPs are 2 hits, some of them are 1 hit. So you can at least do Drive Rush, and then if the opponent is mashing a DP to blow up the gap, as many high-level players will, you can DI, and then some of them are punishable. Reuse is pretty punishable when you do it like this, etc. Some of them are very unpunishable. Guile's, you can't do fucking jack shit to his EX Flash Kick. Chun's is pretty unpunishable. Cammy's is pretty hard to punish, but it is only 1 hit. So if you have a different move that armors, like Marisa or Zangief or something, you can armor with it with a different move. If you have something that's only 1 hit of armor, and you can blow it up that way instead. And then, but anyways, the point is, all of these are either 2 hits or 1 hit on the ground, except for Akuma, who's actually hits 3 hits. So his is the only one that works like this in the entire game, where, if you Drive Rush into DI, it will beat the DI because it does 3 hits, so 2 to blow in the armor, then 1 to hit it. Right? DI is safe against every other EX in the game, every other EX reversal in the game except for Akuma's. So, important point to know about it. Anyways, I don't think I have, off the top of my head, I'll like post like specific tech videos and stuff soon, and I'll definitely start grinding like my practice and stuff with him, and then I'll probably make videos about how I'm practicing my optimization and practice. I mean, just like recording the fucking sheer grind of my recording thousands and thousands and thousands of data entries for every fucking scenario, measuring damage, corner carry, drive gauge gain, drive gauge damage, super gain, everything, risk, like theorizing risk factors, things like that, whatever, routing, different chain route, getting averages, measuring statistics of certain scenarios, getting back with the fucking Zangief statistics math. Done a lot of fucking math over the last week, so yeah, it's been pretty good. I'll talk to you guys soon.